Welcome to the Group Home Riches Podcast. If you have the desire to be your own boss, create your own schedule, and become financially free while at the same time helping people in need, then you've come to the right place. At grouphomeriches.com, we teach people exactly like yourself how to get started in the group home business. And on this podcast, you're going to hear their stories firsthand. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Group Home Riches Podcast. Today we have a somewhat newer member. We know we've gotten a couple questions from her within like the last year or so. We saw a comment on one of our YouTube channels that she wants to share her story. So here we are, Terah with Mitigating Lives. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining us. And we also have the founder of Group Home Riches, Mr. Andy Rothschild, on the line.
Hello.
So, yeah, Terah, Andy, we were just right before recording, we were just talking about the YouTube. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of people out there listening to it. So, Terah, let's just get into the story. You were talking about how you just like the many people out there listening, you just kind of engulf yourself in these stories and things like that. So why don't we start there?
Yeah, so just to give a tidbit of background to start off, I have some history in housing homeless and low-income populations, but it was for, of course, other organizations. I was a supervisor for targeted case management over 3 different counties, well, Baltimore City, Harford County, and Baltimore County. And I noticed that individuals had to have what we call a priority population, meaning they were not entitled to housing as easily as individuals with a diagnosis. And so I would have to finagle things and tell them what to do so that they could be classified as either having anxiety, depression, or something, which really isn't cool to have a stigma attached, but I needed these individuals off the streets. So I always wanted to come up with some type of housing where you could just be in need, and that's enough to be housed. And so I started off, well, I'm a woman of prayer. So I was in prayer one day, and I recognized that individuals on SSI, SSDI, disability, different types of fixed income would need some type of housing that they could afford. So one day in prayer, I just started to draw houses. And I labeled one house SSI, one house SSDI, one house disability. And I set it to the side and I just said, okay, maybe one day I can build on this idea. I never knew that there was a framework from Group Home Riches. And so to speed this up, I had a friend who was interested in assisted living, and she needed some support in learning the ins and outs. And I said, you know what? I'll put my dream to the side and I'll look up assisted living. So I started looking up the protocols and the process, and it is so lengthy. I mean, I felt like we would not be able to do that until a year from now. But in that process, I found you all. Group Home Riches. And I said to myself, is it possible that I could really do what it is that I thought of while in prayer? And somebody already set the stage, has the groundwork, and it's legal. I just wasn't sure, how legal it was. So the first part is that I went on YouTube. I exhausted myself in YouTubes before paying. I wrote in my car, listening to it repeatedly. If there's a portion that I zoned out on, I started it over. I believe in the power of the subconscious mind. So I just exhausted your entire YouTube. And once I recognized that there was nothing else to watch, this was last year, March 2024, I went on and purchased the program. And once I purchased the program, I straight went into legal because my biggest thought was the legalities. I learned about the legalities with assisted living, and it seemed like a lot, and so I just wanted to be secure in my mindset that I can do this and it's legal. So you had a young lady who was a lawyer, and she was speaking of the law, what is it, the Fair Housing Act.
Mm-hmm.
and how we can defend ourselves if we ever have to, if we're threatened with having to close down. I mean, I watched that about 6 times, and that's only because that was my main, I think, fear that I wanted to get over first.
Well,
And
I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially if folks are out there just starting their journey. They're probably gonna look something like this up, right? Which I'm sure you did. How to start an
yes,
assisted living, right? And just look at all the stuff that's gonna
yes,
pop up, and it's legal jargon. It's pretty overwhelming. So, um, two complete different business models. There's nothing against running an assisted living facility. That's a great business. It's just the barrier to entry is just it's pretty overwhelming. Did you find that, or did you start to get into the process of, going
yes.
licensed route and
I got into the process, and I noticed, you know, even as it relates to the money involved, I knew that it would be a long-term goal. I couldn't jump into it right away, because to be honest, I didn't go to banks for funding. Um, I didn't get a loan or anything. So I was sticking with the process. I'm kind of organized. So I created checklists for what's needed for an assistant living. And I just felt like this was going to take like a year to do. But then when I came across you all,
minimum?
I couldn't believe it.
Tell the people like tell the people like kind of the difference and kind of how did you figure it out in your mind, kind of the difference between the two
Okay,
business
so the
models.
zoning, you don't have to go through the zoning. You don't have to go through the fire station or the fire marshals coming out to, I guess, approve and tell you the different things that you need, like sprinkler systems. And then as it relates to staff, there's certain staff that you have to have that have to be certified and that have to have, I believe, the house manager sometimes have to have 6 months experience. So even if you want to run a great assistant living, which is my goal somewhere down the line as I scale up, to me, this is a great model to scale up. And then you can kind of pay your way to get into assistant living. But
Mhm.
as I thought about it, it was two total different models. Basically, I'm a landlord that rents rooms, and I had to get that through my mind. Like, I'm just a landlord that's renting rooms. I just choose to implement three structures: to be all inclusive, to accept individuals on a fixed income, and to adhere to the Maslow hierarchy of need. Because of my mental health background, I knew that it was important to have a wraparound system. So your platform, it just was it was like a dream come true. It was an answered prayer that I never thought I would find.
I want to there's a lot to unpack there. Um, Maybe we'll get into like legal stuff maybe because
Mhm.
we'll have so much questions about it. But I don't know. We've kind of that's like beating a dead horse. As you know, there's so much content on our YouTube channel that you went through talking about the legal stuff, guys. If you're just starting out and this sounds too good to be true, just go through the YouTube channel, just like Tara did. We have years and years of people from all over the country that are doing this, that are kind of, again, just proving that what we talk about is legal. And then, of course, we have in the gold course tons of content that's breaking this stuff down. Uh, we're not lawyers. Latanya is, so you can hear from her and you can check out the laws and stuff like that pertaining to this. Andy, you've been doing it for over 20 years. You want to break down kind of all the complex health staff and systems and licenses that
Yeah,
you had to go through over the years?
let me just make a few comments. Okay, so comment number one is that if you do try to go, doesn't matter what city, what state you're in, if you do try to go the quote unquote licensed route, you are going to need an attorney. And the reason I say you're going to need an attorney because you got to be able to get through all the paperwork. You can do it on your own without an attorney, but I would say you're going to look at bare minimum a year and a half. If you're spending a year and a half and you know that one normal group home home is going to do about $2,500 a month, multiply that by 12, and you can kind of back into what it's going to make you on an annual basis. One little home is going to make you about $30,000. A year and a half, it's going to make you about $45,000. This is why we recommend starting the way that we recommend starting. Just get one little home. You keep it simple. You don't have to go through all the riffraff of a licensed home. Start generating money right away. Then use that money from that one little home that you have to then pay your legal bills, or then to set that thing up and turn it into a licensed home, if in fact that is what you want to do. However, what we found after doing this for 25 years and after working with literally tens of thousands of clients and people is that most people realize, wow, this is actually really, really, really simple. Why don't I just set up 3 or 4 of these things and be, as you just mentioned, a landlord that is simply renting rooms out? So much easier. So much easier. So I don't think I necessarily answered your question, Brandon, but I kind of did. And I hopefully conveyed my reason for why I think that this is hands down the best model out there.
Yeah, it was a facetious question, but the short answer is none. He has no licenses, no medical staff. In short, guys, a lot of people, Terry, you may be dealing with this already. A lot of the people that do seek this type of housing are going to need, services, mental services, for example, medication, stuff like that. It's just going to be simply outsourced typically to the organizations that we teach you guys how to make connections with for your referrals. Another thing that I loved, and Andy, we don't talk about this a lot, on our webinars. We're always we just yelling at people, hey, where's your notebook? Where's your notepad? Write this
Yes,
stuff
yes,
down.
yes.
We're big on this. I have my notebook right here with my goals written at the no, love it. I knew she was gonna have it.
Yes, I was hearing that as well. That was phenomenal.
She also,
Drawing those pictures.
yeah,
Take whatever image you have in your mind about where you want to go, put it down on a piece of paper, and watch it come to life.
it's another just super very easy way to almost brainwash yourself is the visual stuff. So, like a lot of people call it a vision board, right? So, I don't have a big, fancy vision board, but I have just a file on my phone, and every time I look at it, it's just motivating. So, I love the fact that you drew out, houses, and then she labeled which one each house was going to be. I love that. We've never heard that in all the years of doing this, Andy. I thought that was a really cool idea, though.
I thought that was incredible as well.
So, how many homes did you draw out, and what did that look like?
So I drew out about maybe 5 or 6, but my heart was so engulfed in it. I have a heart for the homeless. So the profit after paying bills was not the projections that you all gave. So that's why your platform was like great. I knew that I would have to have a team of volunteers to help me with this because it's not like I can pay them massive amounts of money. I just kind of wanted to house the homeless and allow the business to pay for itself for them to at least be housed. I didn't think about, I thought it was too difficult to think to figure out how I could be paid in a great amount. Other people may think to have cash flow of maybe 1,500 to over 2,000 is not much, but it was for me, especially because when I drew the homes, after paying the bills, I was thinking I was only going to get about $500. So
Mhm.
your framework with shared rooms and all inclusive and connecting with landlord, like everything just what I wrote on paper, you expanded it. So
I love that. So you drew that before that was before you found us, right?
yes, I drew it because, like I said, I prayed, and I'm like, God, you told me to house the homeless, but it doesn't seem simple. So I left it in my notes because I am visual. I do draw things. Some people may write words, but I do words. I create in words as well, but I mainly draw pictures. So once again, a friend needed help with assisted living, and I put my dream aside to help her. But I
Hmm.
later had to come back to her and said, listen. I know I started off saying I would help you with assisted living, but I've found another framework that is 70% easier than that. I said, so I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
it's a
have to
lot
do this.
easier. So did did you guys kind of part ways cordially at that point?
I eventually had to. Yeah, I eventually had to because I also noticed that when your heart is in it, and like I paid for the course and I'm engulfing myself in the information, um, sometimes the passion may not be the same for everyone else. So sometimes you just have to maybe start off a little solo so that you can really learn it, where I can regurgitate it without even looking at the content anymore before I start looking out, for someone else to come on. Like I have a virtual assistant as well. Got that from you.
Nice.
So yeah, we did part ways.
Cool. I mean, it's Andy kind of touched on this, and you did as well. Even if you do want to go the licensed route, or you guys want to kind of specialize in a particular area or offer a particular service, this is a great way to start, get running, get the properties going, learn the business. We've had a ton of people that start with our business model and their heart is just in, other areas like sober living and really dialing down into those particular services. But uh, we haven't seen a lot of people actually just start from ground zero, without a lot of money and time, open up just a big assisted living facility. Um, a
And
lot of
most people don't have $150,000 laying around.
yeah, it's
That's true.
um, so who knows, later on down the line, once you kind of get the cash up, you're gonna have access to more properties, ideally. Maybe you guys can, kind of dial into that. It can be a great business for the right people. So you figured out the legal stuff. It probably took you a while, especially after, diving down this rabbit hole and looking into the zoning and the licensing in your area. Um, but you did figure out like, hey, basically I can just be a landlord and start renting out rooms, essentially. That's what it is. Um,
Yes.
I encourage you guys all get the gold course, go through the legal stuff yourself, and you'll see what we're saying is true.
And I
So
want to say something about, I didn't mean to cut you off about the legal part. At
yeah,
least
go
for
for it.
me, I exhausted myself in that because it's something about your personality or your confidence when you know that you know. So before I could make a move, I had to feel that on the inside when I go into
Mhm.
neighborhoods and I'm, starting this process and moving tenants in. There was a certain level of confidence I knew that I needed. And so I had to tackle the legal part. I mean, I printed it out. I put it in laminate sheets. I just wanted to make sure if anyone ever comes to me that I am ready. But I haven't had an encounter. But, I'm so confident in that area. It just caused me to move forward quicker than I probably would have.
That is such an amazing point. Me and Andy are like, I don't know, Andy. I don't think you spent any time looking into the legal stuff. You were just going to figure it out. But we do. This is such a great point for everybody listening. Use the gold course. Go through it as much as you need. Ask us questions. We'll point you to the right content. But you do need to tackle these issues ahead of time. So if the legal stuff really is genuinely holding you back, uh, go through that stuff, learn it as much as you need. um one of our recent I think it's one of our recent ones. um we got so much stuff here. There's Jeanette. Yeah, Jeanette. She's in Texas, where a lot of the times, Tara, it's not going to come down to this. In fact, this is the only time in the years of us doing this that someone actually had to go to court and she won.
Yeah, I
She,
saw that.
yeah. So the normally we had a recent issue in the school group here where this gentleman, just code violation came and was like, "Oh, you need to do this, this, and this," and all he did was send this letter, this response letter from the gold course, and check this out. This is all the scary stuff that they sent him. You need to do this with zoning. You need to fill this out, blah, blah, blah. And then this was the letter that they got after he sent our response letter. After speaking with zoning, they stated that your current use of the property is legal. We apologize for the inconvenience. So that's how
Oh,
that's how this stuff typically plays out. But uh, you bring up such a great point that whatever issues holding you guys back, whether it be the legal stuff, whether it be and this is one I want to get into. Oh, you can't start this if you don't have a lot of money, or you need to have a ton of properties, blah blah blah. Um, whatever those issues are, tackle those before you can kind of you know get into it, start taking action, those first action steps that we recommend. So great point. And your issue was the legal stuff. You tackled that. What was the next step? Did you have a property or that you were going to use?
no. So I rent the homes, but my next step was to, so I'm kind of great at creating processes and forms. So I started creating pre-screening forms and things to send to case managers and things. Once
Mhm.
my workspace was set up for forms and different things that, we would need, I did the pulling of the yellow pages.
Okay.
And I love that even when I was going through my process, Brandon, you would respond to my emails. I kind of like that, you all were so kind and open to help, even if, I just normally in this business and you have the capability of scaling up so well, you just wouldn't expect such a direct response. But I remember messaging you about the contacts I received. I first only received about 1,000, and then I did 7,000, and that lasted a whole year, and still have some left. So I started. That's another battle. I do not like getting on the phone. I do
Hmm.
not like people hanging up. So I have a friend who she's good at marketing, and she asked me, Terry, well, what are you doing? And I explained the business. She was like, well, I can, help you in any way. So we began to make phone calls. Right, we created a CRM. I didn't pay for a good one. It was kind of already created in Excel. So I just created labels of who we called nonprofit, addiction clinic, VA hospital, just so that when we log these people in, we know who we contacted so that when we send blast emails, I know who I'm sending it to. So she started making phone calls. We started making some connections, but it was really difficult for me to get on the phone.
So I just want to rewind again, just for the beginners out there kind of navigating this thing. You guys will notice that nowhere there did we talk about some secret kind of business loan or a government grant to go purchase a property, right? The the first step that we recommend people to take, but not everyone does this. Some people go out and purchase a property and not knowing where they're going to get referral sources, but it's kind of counterintuitive. But the beginner's guide of the gold course is all about marketing, is what Tara just broke down. We recommend creating those connections and referral sources for to get the property filled before you go get the property. And as you saw, it could be a process, and it's what holds a lot of people back is just, you know, the being scared to pick up the phone and talk to people, right? That would sounds like it was a big issue for you.
Yes, and so we scraped the site, and I know that you have a section where you teach us how to scrape. I started off with that. I felt like I was too slow, so I went on Fiverr. I've been using Fiverr for some years. Fiverr is an app, a platform that can handle a lot of your business needs for a very low price.
Hmm.
So I got somebody, I think I paid $20 to scrape thousands of sites, and it was broken down in categories, thousands of organizations that rapid rehousing, shelters, hospitals, anybody who has, who deals with this population that I need.
Yeah. And Terry, this is a kind of a new section.
Okay.
You guys don't need thousands of contacts. This is kind of where we point people to now. Once the legal issue is a big one for them to tackle, but this one it's step by step, and it's literally built to get people out of that comfort zone of, working on stuff. It's meant to just get them speaking to people right from the beginning. So, um, we're a little late, but you would have loved this. What was it
Yeah.
like when you finally got over the fear of speaking with these organizations? What was the response like?
So, as I stated before, I had a friend who was offering to help, and she did well. But I noticed once again, sometimes when you're the visionary, your heart is in it a little more than who offers to help. There's no harm meant, and I felt like calls weren't being made enough, and so I had to recognize, Brandon, that I don't like making calls, and I felt like it was okay. So I went and got a virtual assistant.
Okay.
And I gave her a script. When I noticed if I didn't get leads, I would change her script. I would tell her, hey, I know this is a script. Can you try to sound, like you're building more interpersonal skills, get to know them instead of saying, hi, I'm calling for Mitigating Lives. Say, hey, how are you? I want to ask you a question. So I started training the virtual assistant in ways to sound personable. And
Mhm.
instead of a telemarketer, so you can get the least amount of hangups. And once we worked with the script, I was able to get some leads. Uh, then I went to a second virtual assistant who I still have now. I love her. I got more leads with her. So I don't know what the it factor is. Sometimes you have to go through different virtual assistants until you find a good one. And the good thing is that you don't pay much. So you don't really feel like you're out of money. You just feel like you're in training. And sometimes in training you fail. So I spent a little on the wrong virtual assistant, but I finally got the right one. And once I found the right virtual assistant, I didn't have to worry about calling anymore. She calls and does well.
Amazing. So when she gets, let's say she gets we'll call it a lead. So a caseworker, or maybe she's gonna speak. A lot of times she's gonna be speaking with secretaries, and they're gonna say, "Oh, you need to speak with so and so. They're the director of landlord engagement," or something like that. Does she then pass that off to you, and you handle kind of the more face-to-face meetings, or what does that look like?
So for about 5 months, my friend and I, we dealt with that part. So when I brought my virtual assistant on, I told her you have to sift through the front desk. So before they even
Mhm.
came on, I've already dealt with it. So I knew to put that in the guidelines for when working for Mitigating Lives. You're going to get up, you have to sift through. I gave the different pointers as to how to get to who you need. And so, yeah, she did do that, but I've noticed that early on. So what they do is she would make a cold call. She would get the email. Once she gets the email, she puts it in the CRM, and she is to immediately send a follow-up email explaining the program and attaching two flyers. One is a flyer of the program. The other is what we call our application guide to let you know what to expect once you submit a referral. And a lot of times after that, I would be the follow up person, which then is easier because I know you want interest. You gave us your email, you responded to our follow up email, you submitted a form. So now I flow. I don't have that issue now, but at first I did. So once they land with, on a call with me, it's kind of easy. I think I just had issues with just cold calling.
It was that initial call.
Yes.
No, yeah. But even those, your your VAs have probably learned this. I mean, in this industry, no one's gonna really yell at you or grill you or like, hey, what license do you have? You're not allowed to call us, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but um, man, I love the fact that you were able to you you kind of outsource stuff from the beginning, and you're just focusing on the high ROI stuff. So those guys, that stuff in the beginning, kind of building the lists, reaching out to everybody, keeping track of who you've spoken with, who you need to follow up with. That is typically that's what's going to be the full-time job in the beginning. And Terah was able to kind of outsource it up front, but eventually you guys are going to want to learn how to manage virtual assistants because as you see, Terah, you probably keep the VAs very busy, right?
Yes, and but there's downtime I've noticed. Yeah, there's that. And just to be clear, before the CRM, I forgot to mention my phone was the CRM. So I would share a notes in the iPhone, share a document with my friend who we were making, she was assisting me with making calls. And every time we landed a call or were able to go somewhere and speak directly, we would just put it in our shared notes. Then when it got too lengthy, that's when I said, you know what? We're up to 60 contacts that we've made directly. It's time to use a CRM because I was losing track of who people were. So
Yeah.
I did start off very informal.
Yeah, ours in the gold course is nothing fancy. It's literally just an Excel sheet that you guys can use. You just want it to be organized. And then currently with our Done With You program, we're using a CRM called HubSpot. But
Hmm.
we are one of our coaches is actually developing a CRM that's specifically for group home operators. So uh, be on the lookout for that. But
Okay.
yeah, guys out there, don't get too kind of engulfed in this. The main thing, whether it's you, VAs, you need to be hounding places like this. Are you familiar with these folks, Tara?
Yes, I've called them. I've been on this site and once I identify certain places, like this, we've called. When I didn't have the best of luck, someone else would call. And then eventually, one call isn't enough, as you all stress in the program anyway.
Hmm.
Um, one call just is not enough. If I would have given up on one call, I would have felt like probably quitting. But you have to call more than once because at first I wasn't successful. You might, like you said, get a front desk, or I may actually get in contact with the case manager, and they're just being respectful, listening to me talk on the other end. But as you all preach, it takes about 7 calls or 7 points of contact to land a deal, and I found that to be really true. Whether it's a combination of calls and emails, it does work.
Andy, when you see me pull this up and you see a really beautiful website and this large board of people and you hear about Tara's kind of VAs, constantly following up with places like this. What does this bring to mind?
What are my first thoughts? My first thoughts are there's 45, 50, 60 people on that website that aren't working. And your job is to do their job. And if you can do their job and make their job easy, you will have all the clients you could ever ask for. But you got to remember what both y'all just said. 80% of sales occur after the fifth close. You have to follow up. It is vital to follow up. You have
Yeah.
to.
You almost have to hound these people and professionally, politely force them to do their job, kind of. So they get lost. Again, there's billions, multiple billions that kind of go towards, housing and services and things like that. A lot of these organizations tend to get pretty bureaucratic, and your job is to kind of you just have to figure out how to speak with the right person It could be somebody like this. Sometimes you could tell by like their title, right? Director of Rapid
Mhm.
Rehousing, or there was this director of Beans and Bread, Promise Housing, whatever that is. Um, Sometimes they make it easy and they'll have the contact in there, but if not, either you or a virtual assistant, it's almost like, imagine going to the DMV and trying to speak with a supervisor. That's what this is like. So
Yeah, and this was really a barrier. First was legal. I accomplished that. Then it was this. So before we got a virtual assistant, my friend and I, we were doing cold calls for about 4 to 5 months. But it was difficult for me to, like you said, to continue to follow up. I had to get past that rejection part. I don't know why. It's not like they were grading me in a class, but for some reason, it was really difficult for me to continue to follow up with a call. I can send an email blast all day, that's easy. But the calling was a part. And that's when I felt like if I don't handle this piece that you just spoke of, I may not be able to move forward. So that's when the virtual assistant came in, where I had to recognize where I am. And I'm like, if I stay here, I will not flourish. So I had to, because I got stuck for some reason when you feel like your call didn't land. So,
yeah, I mean, you learned it the hard way. The VA, they probably just naturally have this because they're not, emotionally attached to the business
yeah.
really. But you need that. You need to be able to just call and kind of, don't take anything personal. You need to understand like the secretary. It's possible they're having a bad day and they don't really care. They're probably not. Some days they're not even listening to you. So it's not really about the script. You guys need to focus on just becoming confident. Don't be scared. Be in the frame of mind of you're literally just calling these organizations to get information. So, hey, my name's Tara with Mitigating Lives. I see that you guys have a couple programs where they help people with uh, housing services. Who can I speak with to get more information? Short and simple. That's not a script from the gold course. We do have scripts in the gold course to kind of help you guys, but if you're just reading those like a robot, you're just going to come off as kind of a telemarketer and you're not confident. Anyways, the main
Yeah.
the first step, guys, again, once you get like those main questions answered, you figure out, all right, this is a business I want to do. The first step is to start reaching out to these organizations, starting to create relationships, kind of see where the demand is. Um, and yeah, you want to start having meetings like this. We have an example meeting with someone that is a contact person that is actually working with people that need housing. And then just kind of do that until you're confident enough to go get the property. Would you say that after you kind of got over those mental barriers and you got the VAs rocking and rolling, you probably had a couple good meetings and kind of had some referral sources lined up, correct?
Yes, I actually did. And you're right. The next step was to find a landlord. But I started off having a landlord, but he
How'd you
ended
do
up.
that?
So my mom is retired, but now she works again in Baltimore. Um, our gas and electric company. So she retired just to go back to work. I believe she got bored. And I guess when you're talking to a customer, I guess she mentioned what I do. And he said, I rent to people who do this or have programs. I would love to help your daughter. So my mom got me his information. So I'm thinking once I build a CRM and contacts, referral list, I can go through him. So I did end up going to see certain properties and things, but it didn't work out with him. So I still had to go back to the Gold course and the Skool app. I'm on there as well to learn and listen to recordings. Just different things is how I can get a landlord because I had to get over that barrier as well. But I did find a landlord on Facebook where there's a lot of pages that's specifically for landlords. landlords looking to lease.
Yeah. So how many like meetings or like we just call them referral sources where you've spoken to someone, you had a really good conversation and they said, yeah, we want to work with you, call us when you get a property. How many folks like that or organizations did you have lined up before you did feel confident to go? uh, I know it didn't work out, but how many referral sources did you have before before you felt ready to go work with that?
So So in Baltimore, we have what we call MedStar. You may have it in other states. And MedStar is responsible for all of the hospitals across, I guess, Baltimore, Maryland. And so that one contact opened the door for every hospital in Maryland to reach out to us.
Wow.
Should they have a client that comes in, a lot of patients go into the hospital who are homeless. And sometimes they want to be sick just so they can have one night in a bed. And so I didn't have a list of tenants, but I've built a relationship at this point for so long, for about 6 months, that they were ready to see something. So although they didn't say, we have a list, for you, they were used to me. They were responding to our blast emails. So I didn't have tenants, but I had faith that I can make the move and get a property.
Beautiful. And that's what we recommend doing, guys. So, Terry, you literally, of course, you tweak it, you personalize it, but you follow in the gold course, kind of what we teach, kind of to a T here. So, uh, that's what we tell people. Just market, as many meetings as you need, as many phone calls until you just feel confident enough to go get the property, whether that be purchase it, partner, you're going to put down, the $2,000-3,000 to lease a property. You're going to know when it's ready. Did you kind of, did you just
Yeah.
had a feeling, right?
I knew, and then let me rewind. So after I got over the legal part, we didn't add this, and around the time that I started scraping the sites and making calls, I got the website made from you all. So right now you're seeing my site. I reached out to Brandon, asked him what he thinks about my website. He said my website is basically personalized to feeding the homeless in the community. But I don't have it, and I don't know if I have mine now with, yeah, the sample website. So I instantly paid for a website. And what I did was I had my web page developer create a drop down on my page. So as soon as you go to www.mitigatinglives.com, a drop down will appear and says, when you refresh the page, it says, "Do you need affordable housing?"
Yep, I
And
saw that pop up.
so I've had you all's page that you all created for a year. I finally discontinued it because I finally felt like I have enough flow where everything is drawn to my page. So they would click learn more. And once they would select learn more, it used to take them to the website that Group Home Riches has created for me. That went on for a year because I didn't want to lose my website. I really liked it. So I had to find a way to connect the two. So that drop down was the first thing they would see, and they would go to the website that you all created for me. I literally, a week or two ago, finally stopped it because I felt like I don't have to pay for two domains. Everything's good now. So I
Yeah.
used your model to add it to this one pager, just to give a brief synopsis of what we offer, which I learned from you all. Um, so that's what I did. Next to me, the website was very important. I didn't get to add that. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. Again, part of the marketing. If you guys have the resources, obviously you want to have a website before you can start reaching out to folks. If you are completely strapped, you're check to check, you can't do it, don't worry about it. Still make the calls. You just be upfront. But Andy, do you want to touch on why it's important to have a website before you start reaching out?
Yeah, guys, I mean, nobody is using the yellow pages anymore, right? So everybody that is learning about Group Home Riches, that knows me, knows Brandon, listening to YouTube, you guys are finding out about us on the internet. The same concept applies for all of these social workers, caseworkers, doctors, nurses. everybody that's touching the population that you are going to be housing, they're looking for people like you online.
And just imagine, like Tara said, she built up a massive list with thousands of contacts. She's sending email blasts. What do you think the first thing that someone's interested on that other end is going to do before, responding back or making a call back quickly, right? It's what everybody does this day and age before using a new service or product. They're going to just go click on the website, they click around. On average, they probably don't even spend more than like a minute on this website. They're clicking quickly and they're like, all right, this is professional. How do I contact this person? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let me call Tara up because this looks exactly what I need. So she uh man, you kind of got the foundation laid like beautifully in the beginning. You started outsourcing stuff immediately. It sounds like you got a team. You built you built on upon our website and then improved it. The website looks beautiful. You got your systems in place. You're starting to make those connections. You had the landlord lined up. That kind of fell through, but
Yeah.
you realize there are landlords out there that want to work with our operators, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, and I'm always nervous in the beginning, but
of
I forced
course,
myself to do things.
this
So, yeah.
this is the area, guys, where this is where you can get some pushback if you are cold calling landlords on Craigslist. That's where that could be a little bit. You're gonna want to have some marketing skills ahead of time. You're gonna want to be very confident. Uh, you're not gonna get told off or anything like that. But this is where you might get some landlords like, nah, I don't want to hear that, right? So, in the gold course, we kind of show you ways to look for people that are going to be open to this in the beginning. The number one way we recommend it is exactly what you did at first, Tara, is just think about your own personal network. Most of you out there listening probably know a landlord, or you probably know someone that knows a landlord. Start there rather than cold calling. Because if you're just cold calling, that might be tough. I don't recommend cold calling at all, but you know, that's what a lot of people do, no matter what I tell them. But look, we have it pulled out in Skool. This would be the easiest way is if you join the Skool group, you go to our partnership opportunities and you see actual investors posting in your area looking for operators to work with. Um, but yeah, the first step is get to that point where you feel like, all right, I need to get a property now. So Tara was there. She got the marketing stuff systematized. She's ready to start taking people in. Why don't we talk about that? How did you? I know the first one kind of fell through. How did you go about getting the property? Again,
Okay.
I want to reiterate there was no there's no secret government loan or grant or anything like that they were holding back from people, right, Tara? You
That
didn't.
is correct.
Okay, so. Were you going to lease the property or were you looking for more of a partnership deal before
So I
you into
went
it?
into it just looking to lease, to rent. And I think, although that first landlord fell through, the fact that I thought I had him in my pocket, not in my pocket in a negative way, but I thought it was a solid connection, that helped boost my confidence as well. As you can
Of course.
see, I like to tackle things one by one so that my confidence can be increased while maneuvering through the business. So I just knew that when I had a list, I had a home. And so I started looking at his properties, whether I agreed with them or not. It still taught me what to look for, what type of rooms were the sizes that I look for if I wanted two tenants or one tenant. But how I secured the landlord that I have, I created a script and I copy and pasted to several different landlords in this particular platform. Kind of set up like the Skool, but it was the Skool app, but it was Facebook. where it
Yes.
was this particular page group that you can join was only for landlords in Baltimore.
Yeah, that's a great I think we have stuff like this in the gold course. If not, we do it for our done with you clients. Once the person's kind of confident, they're speaking with folks, we got some referral sources. We'll give them same thing. We give them a little script and we have them go. There's a ton of investor just groups and things like that on Facebook in every city. So uh, this is awesome. So what you don't have to say word for word, but what was some of the what were kind of like the main points or what was the general idea of that post that you went and posted in that
I
event?
said, hi, my name is Terah Carter. I have the task of housing low income and homeless populations. I said, I explained that we provide all inclusive environments, and we're seeking a landlord who is interested in partnering with us or allowing us to rent your properties. We will handle, minor damages that are caused by our tenants. I gave the rundown of, things, but I didn't even have to say a lot. This particular one was instantly interested because they apparently were tired of renting to, and this is not a judgment, but some populations come with certain things you have to deal with in your properties, where tenants will ruin your properties and things of that nature. So they expressed that they were tired of renting to certain populations because their properties always ended up ruined. So they wanted to start renting to programs or individuals who, are doing what I'm doing. So they were interested.
So Andy,
Yes.
along with group homes, you've been a real estate investor across basically almost every strategy I can think of, right? So coming from your background, why would Tara's family member's friend want to work with this operator? Why did that operator, as soon as he saw that post, why would he be interested in it? You see these posts from investors that are posting in the Skool group. Why would an investor want to work with a group home operator?
A couple of reasons. Number one, because you've got somebody living in the property day in and day out. And when I say living in the property, there's multiple people living there. But typically, especially if you follow our strategy, you're going to have a house manager. So you're going to have a house manager, number one. Number two, you're going to have somebody overseeing that group home. Maybe it's going to be the owner operator, but if not, it's going to be somebody that reports directly to the owner of the business. And that person is going to be in the property bare minimum once every 2 or 3 days. So they're there all the time. So if something does start getting destroyed, you're going to be able to see it and you're going to be able to resolve the issue immediately. So I would say that those are the two primary reasons.
Yeah, I would say it if if you guys follow the script or the kind of the plan that Tara just went through, you have the referral sources lined up, you kind of know the systems, you're going to be an asset to these investors. Even if you don't offer above market rent or kind of a split of the revenue or anything like that, like Andy said, look, all he wants to do is have his property filled and not get phone calls, basically. If I had to shorten it, do you think that would that be accurate, Andy?
Yes.
And if there were somebody, and sometimes we recommend this for people that are starting out if they don't have, a lot of opportunities. Hey, what if you had that, Andy, and they offered to pay you like $200 above market rent?
When can I meet with you?
Yeah, that's
I
it.
mean, it's that simple.
So, Tara, it sounds like this first investor that reached out, they might have been maybe a little familiar with the business model already, or
Yes, I think they're familiar with several programs, whether it was, I think they were used to government funding organizations. I did have to explain that I'm not government funded. Um, And I had to explain that because I wanted them to be mindful of the properties they showed me. Although I know you all know that Baltimore City has a lot of properties for a good price, but sometimes you have to make sure that the landlords still rehab them well or have them suitable. So I wanted to let them
Mhm.
know whether I'm funded or not, you still should present a decent property, but just to let you know, I'm not just getting thousands of dollars where you just think that no matter what, I'm just going to throw people in here because I'm getting paid no matter what. I expressed to them that these individuals are human and they still should live in a decent, environment. So even me expressing that, I feel caused them to really trust the process.
Very cool. So, what did and as we were talking about this, guys, I just pulled up, the Skool group is starting to make it easy for folks. I'm showing you guys, investors are literally joining our Skool group, posting in there. They're looking for operators. Um, they're not going to, you saw though, Terah did, months of planning and preparation to get to the point where she was an asset to these guys. So there's no shortcuts. If you don't know the business, if you haven't done the networking, these investors are going to be able to sniff that out very, very quickly. They're not going to want to learn the business along with you, right? They're just going to want sign the paperwork, you get in there. As long as Terra starts paying them, they don't care. But if they know that Terra or you are not going to have referrals coming in, you're not going to have income coming in, they're not going to get paid. They'll be able to suss that out very quickly. So Tara went into a local Facebook group for investors. Tara, there's probably way more, a lot of them. I know it's every city is like this. There's also meetups too. So if you are,
Yeah.
looking to expand, and we'll kind of get into that, you can also go in person and start speaking with investors. But so you posted, nice professional post in the Facebook group. The gentleman was interested. Um, how did the conversation go, negotiations and things like that?
So yeah, I posted it in his inbox. I didn't put it on the page.
Gotcha.
And we scheduled a time to talk and we spoke at a particular time the next day. And I was so happy because I did get some automated responses, which I wasn't sure if they were bots or even human. So it was nice to see that this was an authentic person. And so he just expressed that he's looking, his partner, he and his partner are looking to partner with individuals who have a program for the reasons I've shared. They've had their properties, I guess, ruined and things of that nature. So even though they were also doing Section 8, where that's kind of guaranteed money as well, I don't think they claimed that they weren't pleased with how their properties were left. So they really were interested and they started telling me about several properties. I just wanted one little house, but they started telling me about several properties. But you know what I learned? I learned that they were kind of the property management team, and I think they were tasked with finding the owners, people to rent their homes to. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense to us. So this is one of the recent ones. Andy, am I giving you flashbacks?
Oh my God. Oh my God. I still get it, guys. I still get it.
Yeah, so this is the type of stuff that typical property management companies, landlords need to deal with. This is one of Andy's recent evictions, right? And it's one of the
Mhm.
advantages of the group home business model is that you have way more control over the property. Andy, do your group homes ever look like this?
We don't ever let them get to that point because we're
About to
in and
say
out of them
that.
all the time.
Yeah, so it
Now,
just
now, could they get to that point? Absolutely. If we're not in there for 2, 3, 4 weeks, of course. But because we're in there on a daily basis or every other day basis, they don't get to that point.
so to put your guys selves in the shoes of uh Terah's partners, we'll just call them business partners at this point, right? They, that you can tell very quickly, Andy, you would know from the moment you started talking with Terah that she was legit, confident,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
competent, right? You could tell from the very beginning that she's in
It's
it for
it's
the
all
right
it's all the
reason.
same stuff. I mean, the people that we try to attract from our, from our YouTube videos, calls, anybody that's listening to this right now, you really need to go back and listen to all these other YouTubes. Everybody has the exact same formula. They are people of faith, people that use their minds, people that visualize, people that write down their goals. And look, not everybody does it the exact same way, but without question, everybody is visualizing and everybody is writing down their goals, hands down.
Yeah, and we didn't really get into it on this one, but one of the other advantages of the group home business model compared to, just typical rental properties is that by breaking down the rooms, either rent, we call it licensing. You're licensing either the room or a bed, sometimes in a roommate situation. That it's you actually end up typically 10xing the cash flow of a typical rental
Mhm.
property. But one of the things you will almost never hear on our interviews, you'll never hear someone say, "Oh, I'm here for passive cash flow. I don't care about the community. I just wanted
Right.
to get rich quick," right? So, it's very possible to get a group home and absolutely let it go to this, but no investor is going to want to work with somebody like that. And you can tell pretty much by every one of our interviews, even Tara's introduction, right, that she's not going to be the type of person to let this become she's not in it to become a slumlord and get a passive income, right? So
Right.
they were probably able to notice that very quickly, Tara. And they wanted to avoid this, right? They wanted to avoid the calls, the rehabs, and by partnering with somebody like yourself, probably counterintuitive to a lot of new investors or new people, but by partnering with someone like you, this is a way to have more control over the property, have somebody competent who's going to be almost managing the properties for them, and you are going to be getting quite a bit of cash flow, so you're going to be able to pay them on time, right? So,
Yes.
um, the conversation went pretty well. It sounds like they were almost seeking somebody like yourself, so you didn't really have to sell them on the business model or anything like that. What uh what did the property look like? What did that first property look like?
The first property was a single family home, 4 bedrooms, nice sized backyard, and the sizing of the room was a little difficult for all of them to be shared. I haven't quite accomplished all of the rooms becoming shared rooms. Sometimes it seems like people of this population, they want so much, and it's like they don't recognize that they have so little. It's like, hey, I only get this a month, and I want this, this, and this. And I'm like, you may want to consider a shared room. It's better than being on the streets. So I range from single rooms to shared rooms. And I do have a few pictures of mine, but
Our latest
yeah,
road,
that's a nice one.
the general population.
Yeah, sorry. Didn't know
Yeah.
there's audio on that, but I just want to give kind of visual what these properties look like for the folks.
But I did learn with this first property to really, I was so excited it was my first property. Now I've learned to look at the sizing of the rooms, because some rooms in Baltimore City are very small, where it's difficult to add 2 beds because I want them to be there for longevity. I don't want the tenants to feel crammed in a room. So although I could get a bunk bed and have two, but I kind of wanted them to feel comfortable. So when the rooms were extremely small, it was like almost impossible, you know, to fit 2 beds. that caused me to look with a more critical eye for the second home. So I
Absolutely.
did learn, I learned from that.
So you got up and running, you got rocking and rolling, you were able to respond to those hospitals that were calling you or at least waiting for you to call them. Uh, how quickly did you kind of get it up and running and cash flowing and kind of stabilized?
Okay, so I kind of went. So once again, I'm a woman of prayer, and although I didn't have a list, I felt like I need a house first, something that I can. It's like an act of faith. So although I made the connections, I needed a faith move. So the faith move was to get this house before I had the list. So we sealed the deal on the home. And I just came up with a date and called and named it an open house for mitigating lives. So I reached out to everybody we've been contacting for those 5 months, MedStar hospitals, even people on the blast list that I don't even know of, and gave them a date and gave them a process to follow to confirm that they were going to come out to the home. And it was to the point where some organizations didn't recognize that they had us on the thread. They were like, yeah, we want to see the house finally. We finally want to see what mitigating lives have. So it let me know that it was time to get the house because all of the blast emails and all of the conversation, they needed to see it. So I had an open house for providers only, case managers and organizations where, I gave a tour. I was actually in a school group, let some people know like, hey, I'm going to have an open house. I don't know what to do. Can you give me some pointers? And everyone is so friendly in the school group and they told me what to do. And I did it. And I just gave a tour and I had and in my open homes when I have an open house, Brandon, what I say is because I could say that I'm all inclusive and only renting rooms all I want, they still have assistant living in mind. So at each start of a home, I open up and I say, listen, I want to address the elephant in the room. We are not in assistant living. We are landlords that rent rooms, and we choose to implement 3 strategies. We adhere to the Maslow hierarchy of need. We're all inclusive, and we attract fixed incomes, and we outsource. So I just let them know that we don't provide any services in the home. However, we connect them to services. So that's another thing we did with the virtual assistant is we connected with organizations that provide case management, that provide med management. And our homes now, they are all connected with case management. So I don't have to do that, which even helps with another body in the home, to visit the clients. I like that as well, like more drop-ins because they have case management.
Yeah, that that just it's yeah, that's perfect. And that kind of that ties back to the legal stuff. So Tara isn't just bringing people in and like false advertising, that she is an assisted living facility, right? If someone comes to you and they do need services, you just simply outsource it. You do connect them to places that can provide those services, and you're just collecting a fee for licensing space to them. That's kind of the legalese.
And their Medicaid, their state insurance covers whatever need they have.
Yeah, but and again, you don't have to deal with the Medicaid paperwork or anything
No,
like that,
no.
right?
The organization we outsource to, they handle that and they're delighted. I mean, that's more money for them. Yeah. So that's easy.
Yeah. With our Done With You program, we find that, like the majority of leads that we get and calls and things like that, the services are already set up. How often do you have to like refer people that don't have services? Does that happen a lot?
So it's 50-50 because a lot of my referrals are so the tenants, the licensees, I'm learning to change my terminology. The
Yes.
licensees who we house, they PRP, which is a case management here in Baltimore, they refer them. So for those individuals, they don't need it. But then for the individuals where the hospital refers them, which we get a lot
Right.
of calls from the
Right.
hospital, they don't have case management and they really need it. So I just collect the Medicaid number, date of birth, and the name, and I contact one of the organizations who know me very well at this point. So when I call, they know, that it's a go.
Beautiful. So All right, we're going on a we're going on an hour. Me and Andy, we could always talk for hours on these things. But let's talk about what the business looks like now. So you're a little over a year into when you started just like researching this stuff, right? So like a
Mhm.
year and a couple months was when you just started digging into it. At this point, you have it's two properties, right?
Yes, I had three, but
Three.
now it's two.
Okay. And were all of those through the rental arbitrage model of, partnering with landlords?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So beautiful, guys. That's again, that's how long did it take for you to get the first property?
So if I started last year researching March, really April 2024,
Hmm.
about 5 months in, cold calling, research, setting up systems in the background, getting flyers made, websites. We signed on the first home, September of 2024.
Awesome.
But that was to not open. What was it? No, it was October, like the end of September, beginning of October. So our move-in date was November 1. They called us and said, due to squatters, they don't want to deal with squatters. They're going to give it to us a month early, which I liked because I was able to furnish it and do things before the date that a couple of licensees that we've identified moved in. So I didn't start off with a full home. They weren't, but it was a learning process, the entire. And that's another thing I want to add in there. The particular home that I received first, that's the home that I no longer have. However, I don't look at it as a loss because I learned a lot. Like to think that I'm going to go into this business less than a year, housing people, and I don't learn the ins and outs. Putting out fires. It was a great. It was a great learning experience. So I noticed one time I was on a call, not a call, but a YouTube with you all, and you all mentioned sometimes it's normal to get a home and you don't fill it right away. I was a little discouraged. I wanted every room filled. But I started off with just two tenants and then three and then four. But which was good for me. I want it's good to start off when you're new with one or two instead of a home full of four people when I'm the only one operating. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. So you got the two properties now. They're probably close to filled or kind of keeping the
Yes,
rest.
one is filled, all women ranging from age 50 to 72. They are funny. I love that home. Uh, and another home is for women as well. Tenants they moved out in May, so now I'm conducting another open house this month so that I can have it refilled by July 1.
Beautiful. It's you probably felt like you went through like a crazy strenuous process, but I mean, Andy, what other businesses out there can you just start researching and within a year, you're cash flowing decently. You got a beginning
None,
business. Yeah.
none. So this is one of the reasons I'm such a huge fan of this business model. Number one, it doesn't really require much in the way of capital. If you're smart and you're resourceful, you can go out and you can furnish your entire home basically for free. Again, if you're resourceful. If you're not that resourceful and you just want to spend the money and you've got a couple $1,000 laying around, you can go out there and you can go to used places. You can go to the Salvation Army. You can go to, on the weekends, you could go to garage sales, stuff like that. Furnish your house for probably $1,000. So again, how many other businesses are out there where you can literally recoup all of your money in probably 3 months? They don't exist. The other thing I love about this business is the fact that it is not going anywhere, right? There are people out there in white collar America who are getting obliterated right now. They are losing their jobs to AI. Whether you're a consultant, whether you're working in the healthcare space, what have you, you're a coder, your job is getting obliterated. Now, as those jobs get obliterated, it's going to cause more devastation in society. And the more devastation that it causes, the more homeless people you will see. The more homeless people you will see, the more the government will print money. They will print money and they will give it to people in the form of UBI. So not only can you recoup your investment and have this business up and going and profitable in a couple of, literally, we've seen it done in a couple of weeks, but generally speaking, 3-4 months. But number two, this business is not going away. It's not going away. So those are probably two of the biggest reasons why I'm such a fan of it.
Yeah, I pulled to your point, Andy. I pulled this one up. They must have changed their layout a little bit, but this is for people that are working, white collar companies. They used to have a section where they they showed the companies that they work with, like Uber, Square, all these big corporations, and the workers for those companies, they need co-living. They can't afford their own
Yep.
spot. So, you know,
Right.
the reasons why we kind of we dial into like the hospitals and the organizations that Tara was talking about is because there's a ton of demand there, and then you can kind of access, either, we want guaranteed payments the majority of the time, and that's not going to come from
Yep.
your coder at Uber that's paying on their own. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, the business isn't going anywhere, and I've said it a couple times, but guys, you did not mention that Tara needed to go get a big loan. She didn't need to get a government grant. She didn't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in this property. She didn't need to buy the property. She just leased it, right? So, uh, Tara, you know, are you so you're leasing the property? Is there any kind of special agreement that or concessions you had to make with the landlord, or are you just paying market rent?
Um, that first home, I was being taxed. That's what we call tax because I'm operating a program and I
Mhm.
understood it. But I use you all's license agreement. So whatever's in there, um, I had to learn to read that because when I conduct open houses and licensees are signing it and they're like, I don't understand line B. And I'm looking like, well, I don't know if I really read line B. But I use you all's license agreement and it works well. And every now and then I add on the rules. You have licensees that break rules and do things. So I had to modify the rules for, as time go on, those basic rules, were not enough. And about housing, I not housing, I furnished my homes with the thrift store, all thrift
There
store.
you go.
And what do you
Yep.
call it? Yard sales. I mean, I got some nice things from there. And but I could have furnished for free, but I like things a little nicer than usual. So everything I looked at for free, I didn't quite like. But if I had to do it, you can do it for free and just buy a couple. Like one couch I got for free. It was a mess, but I bought a $20 couch cover and covered it with a couch cover, threw a few thrift store throw pillows on the couch, and they thought it was luxury. So there are ways to improvise.
And let's go back to the free. This is just to kind of reiterate. Obviously, it's easier if you guys do have, money to purchase the furniture or just put money down for a lease. But if you did have absolutely zero to put into it, Tara, you got the gold course, that was up like $199 or somewhere close to that. That helps, obviously. Anyone can find that. But if you did all that marketing, you have the referral sources, do you think the landlords that you're working with now, would they have just kind of partnered with you and let you operate out of the home without putting that first month's rent down or paying a lease if you split the profit with them? Do you think they would have
Um,
done that?
they probably would have, and I'm only saying that because of the relationship we have now.
Yeah.
Um, They probably would have, because even for my second home, because I've already built a reputation with them and they trust me, they kept telling me they have a lot of inventory. I said, well, I'm not ready, but if you allow me to, house them first, that first month's rent, I can give it to you, the 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 second month. I think I said something like, I can give you the security deposit, because normally you need a security deposit and first month's rent. I said,
Mhm.
I can move a little quicker if I can give you the security deposit, but can the first month's rent be broken up? We even did that for my second home, and they were delighted to.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That's what yeah. So again, that's just an example, guys, that if you didn't have the money to, the first month's rent and the deposit, if you do develop that relationship and you are willing to be, way more flexible with the partnership agreement, yeah, you might not be making as much money, but you can, you know, you can basically partner with the investors to at least get started with very little money, even if, no money down. But again, just another example. Terra followed it to a T. If you guys are listening to this, watching it on YouTube or listening on Spotify, we encourage you guys, just like Terra, go through, brainwash yourself with these success stories. We love the podcast so much. I do. This is how I taught myself real estate investing, was I just literally brainwashed myself listening to stories like this, success stories. Just, makes it become more real. You could hear me and Andy talk about it all day, but when you hear somebody who literally just discovered the gold course about a year ago and now she's rocking and rolling, I think it makes it much more real for the folks out there. So, Tara, it was awesome having you on. We could talk all day, I'm sure, but we just, you went through a little over the first year. What are the next goals? What are the next things that you got drawn on your vision sheet, or what's the next year or two look like for you? What's the plans look like?
The next year or two are to have several homes across Baltimore City where that's all I do. I love serving people. I love being in a community. I love partnering and meeting investors. I've met more outside of my partners I have now.
Perfect.
So my goal is uh, several more houses. For this year, my goal is about 3 to 4 more, and then in counting. I would like to do this full time. I love the group home riches model. I love it.
How many more properties do you think you need until you get kind of reach that like kind of financial freedom number where you feel like you can go full time?
So I would say about 2 more, only because there are two things. I haven't rented shared rooms as much as I would like. That's the big bank to me. I'm still doubling. Like for example, if rent is 2,000, I'm still making 2,000 profit off of a property, and that's with the bills included. I'm not upset with that with one home. However, I know that I can, make more if I do more shared rooms, and then I haven't quite found the organization that funds the bids for these individuals. So these individuals actually are on fixed incomes. I haven't found an organization that pays. So that's my next goal before 2025 ends, is to find the organization that pays, because we can get more for the bids.
Perfect. Here's a couple recommendations for you.
Okay.
I think you've done it sounds like you might have done this, but if not, I would do this a lot more. Is start going to real estate meetup groups. And
Okay.
I'll
And
tell
I haven't been, so this is good.
Andy, imagine you're an investor, you don't know about this stuff. You're where you're at now, but you've never heard of group homes. How excited would you be to meet somebody like Tara at a real estate?
Extremely.
So you think about it. You could literally start as a private lender. That Tara would be a perfect
Yes,
candidate for that, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Terry, you'll meet, it's not just about meeting landlords, which you still could, right? But moving forward, if you want to scale this thing up and really live off of it, start thinking like an investor. So
Okay.
here you'll meet wholesalers, people that have access to off-market properties. You'll meet people that, your construction crew, right? You'll meet, of course, you meet more landlords, right? And investors. Uh, People like Andy, right? At some point, you have people that have a lot of cash and they're looking to put their money to work for them, right? You'll meet people like that. So I would just start going here and shaking hands, telling people what you do. We have a script for it in the gold course, but you don't need it. You could just, talk to them at this point, right?
Yeah, okay, that is the missing link, the investors. Well, that I'll tackle that this year. That is a desire of
I went
mine.
I went to a big one, and I don't go to them as much as I used to, but I went to a big one in Dallas. I don't know, maybe a year ago at this point. I literally had a line of people that wanted to talk to me because
Wow.
it's, when you start to explain this to investors, their eyes will just light up. So, ton of opportunity there. And I know it held you back in the beginning because you didn't want to, at this point, you might be a little bit nervous to pick up the phone, but I think you could get over that and start
I'm good now. You should hear me
yeah,
now. That's
exactly.
at first. Now I flow. I'm really good.
You have the wide marketing down. I would start doing the deep marketing, which
Okay.
takes a little more, you can train VAs to do it, but it's like deep marketing is so wide marketing is you have a massive list and you're just sending the same script to it, right? So that's very wide. Or even like Google ads or Facebook ads, that's considered wide marketing. Deep is where you zero in on a contact, like this one, for example.
Okay.
You do a little bit more research. Okay, who do I need to speak with, right? If you're just blasting if you're just blasting this email or calling this phone number, it's going to be very hard to kind of speak with the right person.
Okay.
You can even research, you can find out where the money is going in your area. You literally like look who's getting all the funding. Um, I can usually just tell by the website and the keyword, but you want to do some more deep marketing. I would pick like the 5 to 10 large organizations in your area, and then you do the deep marketing yourself. Maybe even go in person if you can't get in contact with them. But you could,
Okay.
the people that had housing in there. So like, Brandy, yeah, you literally go to LinkedIn,
Okay.
try
That's
to
a good idea.
go to LinkedIn or even skip trace, skip trace, which
Okay.
we could talk about that offline.
Yeah,
But
I used to do a little wholesaling. I kind of play
there
with
we
that, and
go.
we use skip trace.
Yeah, so you want to do that deep marketing. So another metaphor, think of the emailing. That's just like going into a war zone and just spraying.
Yeah.
This is sending in your snipers right here, and I think
Okay.
you're a sniper. So um, yeah, I would target those larger organizations in the area and really start to do that deep marketing to develop a relationship with these folks. That's where you know, it takes a little
Okay.
bit longer, but that's how you really kind of you're not getting funded directly by the government at that point, but you basically are. So,
Okay. This is good. My confidence level is up, so I can become a sniper at this point.
yeah, you are. It's just about pointing those skills at the right places. So, well, I'm excited to see where it is. You definitely have to come. We'll have to catch up with you once you. I don't know. What's you said? You said you got to have probably about four properties rocking and rolling before you can really
Yeah,
dedicate
about
time.
two more, and that's only, I mean, really three, but I want to have a good amount. I want to exhaust my, I don't want to just meet my salary. I want to
Yeah,
leave wiggle room. So,
want to be
um,
comfortable.
yeah.
Well, we'll have to check in with you when you do that, and it's what kind of to Andy's point, that could, even if you stay at this current pace, that's going to be like a year and a half, 2 years into the business. Again,
Yeah.
what other business can you get into with little to no money down, and you're basically retired after a year or two? So,
Yeah, because I actually only been housing since November.
yeah,
So every now and then when I get a little, when I'm just looking at the business, I'm like, okay, I just got my first house in November. This isn't bad to be up to 2 to 3 houses.
not bad at all. That's why we wanted to have you on.
No, you're crushing it. You're crushing it.
I love these stories, Tara, because you're extremely relatable, right? The people that are just stumbling onto our YouTube page, you're a perfect example of where they could be in 6 to 12 months. So super relatable. So all right, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely have to we'll have to do a catch up here once we get you out of that job.
Yes, that's the goal.
So, uh, we'll let you kind of put the final words in, but before we wrap it up, Mr. Rothschild, do you have any parting words for Tara and the other folks out there listening?
Just the people listening, I would say listen to this again and really think about what Tara did, right? I mean, number one, put a vision in your head. Where there is no vision, the people will perish, right? So Tara mentioned she's a woman of faith. If you guys know any biblical verses, that's a good one to memorize. So where there is no vision, the people perish. And you got to have a vision in your head. So she had a vision, and then after she had that vision, she wrote it down on a piece of paper. She wrote down, here are three little homes. Got an SSI home, SSDI home. I got a disability home. And lo and behold, everything came to life. So now after that, you can't just write it down on a piece of paper and think that it's going to miraculously appear. You got to have energy, and you got to get out there and you got to get started. But first and foremost, put the vision in your mind. Second of all, write it down on a piece of paper. Third thing, go take action.
Beautiful. Tara, any last words for the folks? And you can let them know they have questions for you. I'm sure, I guess they can reach out to you in the school group, but I'll let you handle that.
Okay, so yes, I guess my parting words would be to continue, create the vision, write it down. And once you write your vision down, it will run. It will actually leap off the paper. And I also would say, don't wait till everything is perfect. Because if you wait till everything is perfect, you'll never start. So follow the gold course. I do recommend the gold course to a T. Exhaust yourself with their YouTubes. Ride in the car with them on. That's what I did. It creates motivation. And just go, go, go. As long as you follow them step by step, it's impossible, not to make it. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me via email at info at mitigatinglabs.com, or there we go, info at mitigatinglabs.com, or you can contact us at 443-377-3685. And I'd be delighted to answer any questions. And I thank you, Andy and Brandon. You will be hearing from me again.
Yes, can't wait for the
Love that.
for the second one, the uh the the recap. So, yeah, well put. Perfect example, guys, of someone that just followed the game plan. I can't agree with it more. Get the gold course. Um, Engulf yourself in the YouTube. We have a ton of success stories like Tara. Brainwash yourself with this stuff. Also, get into the school group. School groups, guys, only $10 a month. I just recently realized Netflix is charging me way more than that. So if you're tight on funds, cancel Netflix and get into the Skool group. It'll be much more beneficial for you. We'll include links to all those as well as your contact in the description, Tara. And guys, if you have any further questions for us, it's Brandon at Group Home Riches or Andy at grouphomeriches.com. And guys, yeah, just follow that game plan. And look, we hope to have you guys as one of our success stories here. We want to be interviewing you in the next 6 to 12 months from listening to this. So, Tara, thank you for taking what we talk about and taking action on it. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. Andy, as always, thank you for your time, brother.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Right. Bye-bye.
All right,
Okay.
guys, have a great day.